So Tottenham have had an absolutely terrible season. They sit 14th in the Premier League table and only have the Europa League to play for. And as it's the international break, many questions are being asked about this Tottenham side. What can they do going into next season? Can they achieve anything? Or is it going to be doom and gloom for yet another year? And many people in my comment section have suggested, Sonny, have a look at this Spurs squad. Is it actually good enough? Do we have a squad that can compete at the top level? Because I, for one thing, we have got some good talent there, but we do need more in the summer in the transfer window. So today on the Sonny Talks Spurs YouTube channel, we're getting the tier list back out again and doing the old-fashioned keep, sell or loan. But if you are new to the channel, then leave a like, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and let me know in the comments down below, who would you keep, sell and loan? So yeah, I've been thinking long and hard about this, and I think it's about time we got, as I say, the tier list back out, because the squad is bloated. The squad is full of players who are not good enough. There are problems up and down this Tottenham pitch, but I think there's a lot of potential there. There's a lot of good youngsters who I think can really thrive at this football club, whoever the manager happens to be. If it's Ange Postecoglou or insert name here, whoever you think it could be. Let me know in the comments, actually, who do you think should be the Tottenham manager going into next season? I'd be interested to see who you say. So if we look on the screen, now here is the tier list. Now this tier list is made up of players including, you know, people at the club currently, people out on loan, people in some youth squads who have, you know, had some first team football this season, and also, you know, some other names that I think are worth mention. And it's going to be a tricky one. This is going to be the tier list to end all tier lists. It's a lot of players we need to get through, and I'm going to be harsh. I'm going to be culling some big names from this squad and keeping the ones who I think can take this club to the next level, because there's a lot of potential there, but we've got to get rid of a fair few to really make the most of it. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before I go any further, over 80% of you are not subscribed to the Sonny Talks Spurs YouTube channel watching this right now. What are you doing? Get down below and hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell, and you'll see glorious content such as this. Now, let's get into it. So we might as well start in one place, and that is with some of the goalkeepers. And the goalkeepers, I think it's pretty straightforward. We obviously will keep Vicario. He'll go straight into the keep section. He's been great this season when he's featured. He's been injured and out for a long time. He's come back into the team. He's been absolutely fantastic. I'm happy with Vicario's development. He's come in. He's been good with his feet. He's been good with his hands. He's got better at corners and set pieces, which is good to see. So I'm happy with the development of Vicario. He's still a good age, and he'll be Tottenham's starting goalkeeper for many years to come. That is pretty simple. Then we have Fraser Forster. Get rid. I think his contract is actually, you know, coming towards an end, so I think it makes sense to get rid. He's filled in spaces this season, but he's not good enough. He's not good with the ball at his feet. He's an okay shot stopper, but he's still, you know, getting on. He's basically being kept around because he's good for an English contingent. So, but I think it's time to get rid. And just to let you know, the get rid category also means if a contract expires, a loan expires, and also just sell as well. So I just wanted to clarify that one going into this. Then we have Brandon Austin. I'd keep Brandon Austin. I think he's come in and been good this season. Obviously, where was the situation where Vicario was injured and he had Fraser Forster was injured, and then he came in and was quite good. He's obviously 25 odd years old, and he's not got a future at the club, but I think in regard to this homegrown quota, I think it makes sense to keep him around, probably as a fourth option. But if an opportunity comes around, I wouldn't be, you know, against getting rid of him. I think he's good to have at the club in general. He's a, you know, boyhood Spurs fan, made his debut for the team this year, so pretty good for him. Then we have Antonín Kinský, obviously a keep. One for the future, really. He's had some good spells as Tottenham goalkeeper, obviously against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup semi-final first leg, but the problem is he's also had a few rickets in him, but he's learning. He's really, really young. He's 21. This squad is really, really young, so there's a lot of promise about that. But I think Antonín Kinský will be a good backup and a good rotation when Vicario, obviously, you know, comes to the end of his Spurs career. We then have Alfie Whiteman. I'd get rid of Alfie Whiteman. I think he's, you know, not really good enough. Never featured for the team. Again, has been kept around as English quota. So, quick one on that. get rid of Alfie Whiteman. Then we have, someone who I really want to talk about, Josh Keeley. So here he is right here, and he goes straight into the keep category. Been fantastic for Leyton Orient this season, along with another loanee who I'll mention in a bit. But I really like Josh Keeley. I think he has been a fantastic goalkeeper out on loan for Leyton Orient. And I think he now deserves to stay and get a chance and maybe fight out with Antonín Kinský. Probably, he could go out on loan. I wouldn't be against that. But what annoys me with some of these youngsters who we have at our disposal, and that's why I haven't mentioned there's so many youngsters with potential in the Spurs Academy. So if you think I've missed someone out who's of importance, let me know in the comments. But I've only put a few in here because I think a lot of them will, potentially just be loaned out again, or they'll, be sold. Loaned out, sold, or kept in the academy. And these are the ones who I think, there's more potential of something happening with them. So that's why I've mentioned them. Josh Keeley, I'm very, very happy with his development. And we also have Luca Gunter and Kerry Blodon. Now, I'll just loan them out. I think they're straight. I mean, Luca Gunter's got more potential, I would say. But I think, straight loans, because you can't have too many goalkeepers. I think 4 goalkeepers at a club is enough in this regard. And any more than that, I think, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But that's the goalkeepers. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. We then move on to, we'll just go in the order that they're presented on the screen. Radu Dragusin. Now, Radu Dragusin's come under a lot of heat, hasn't he? He's been criticised a lot this season. I think a lot has been asked of him. He was going to really just be competing with Mickey van der Ven and Romero this season and be rotated. But because of what's happened with our injury crisis, he's had to play a lot more minutes at starter on the left side where he's not as comfortable. I think there's a good player in Radu Dragusin. I think he's playing under the wrong manager in Ange Postecoglou. The high line, it's not really his forte. He's not that quick. He's better at passing and distributing and, playing a bit deeper, which I think under another manager he'd really, really suit. A lot of people would say if he was at a West Ham or a Nottingham Forest, he'd be really, really good. But I think there is the player potential there. He was really good in Serie A. I'd still keep him. I think there's a good young player there, and Bayern Munich wanted him, and they wouldn't want any player. They really go out buying and try and secure some of the best talent across Europe. So I would keep Radu Dragusin. We then have Destiny Udogie. I'd keep Destiny Udogie. I think, there's a lot of question marks over Destiny Udogie. He's not been as good as he was last season. I will say that. But with Destiny Udogie, I think what you do is you have a player who has still got a lot of potential. He has played really, really well under Ange Postecoglou in his first season, not so much this season, was injured and has rotated a bit with Pedro Porro and Jed Spence depending on the side that's being played. I think there's still a lot of potential in Destiny Udogie. He's not match fit, I'd say. I'd say at the moment, still maybe our strongest full-back line is Pedro Porro on the right and Jed Spence on the left, because even Jed Spence on the right has not been good in the last couple of weeks. Destiny Udogie, really like him. Good Italian international. I've got a lot of admiration for him. Then we have Cristian Romero. Now, I'm on the fence about Cristian Romero because ideally I'd keep him. But if he's not focused on Tottenham, then I'd say we should sell him. And if we get a good offer for him, then it's hard to not turn that down. At the moment, it seems like his focus has been on, Argentina and playing for them. He won a World Cup, he won a Copa America with them. He has, he's a really, really good player on his day. He also can be a rash player on his day. He can get a red card, he can do silly fouls. But I like him. I think our strongest defence is when him and Mickey van der Ven are in that back line. The problem is his head been turned. He's not good enough to play for Real Madrid, but you never know. They might think they could pluck a player out of him. I'm going to go with keep, because ideally I would like to keep him around. But if his head is turned and he thinks he can go elsewhere, then maybe that goes into the get rid category. Then we have Pedro Porro. He's been bad this season. I will say he's been really, really bad. His attacking output's not been as good. His defensive output's been poor. But there is a good potential player in there. I don't think he's a right back. That's his issue. He's not a proper right back who you can rely on defending. You need a more solid defensive unit, that sits a bit deeper if he's going to be the right back. He was brought in as a wing back. Maybe he could play on the wing. Maybe there's potential with that. But I'm going to go with keep for Pedro Porro. I think there's still a good player in there. I just don't think he's been managed that well. Jed Spence, it's got to be a keep. He's been one of the best players. I mean, I did criticise him a moment ago saying he's not been good the last couple of weeks, but he's been one of our players of the season. The fact that he wasn't starting games at the beginning of the season is an absolute war crime, but I'm glad to see him back in the squad. Versatile as well, can play left and right back. I mean, you couldn't ask for much more. Automatic starter, I'd say now. One of the first names on the team sheet. Ben Davies. Now, Ben Davies' contract is running out at Spurs. He's been a fantastic player for Tottenham. I actually did recently, for TalkSport's Inside Spurs show, a combined 11 all-time Premier League for Tottenham. And at left back, we put Ben Davies in the 11th hour. I said, what about Ben Davies? Because Danny Rose, I think, jury's out on him maybe as a Tottenham legend. Whereas Ben Davies has been an absolute stalwart. He's been at the club for many years. He's played at all these different managers. He can play centre-back and left-back. But I'd get rid of him. I think maybe it's time to, the problem Tottenham have is they hold on to these players too long. And I think I'm worried that will happen. So maybe it's time to say goodbye to Ben Davies. Then we have Mickey van der Ven. Keep. I mean, it's a shame about what could happen to Mickey van der Ven. I did a video on this recently. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, go and see them. Go back and have a watch. But I said that Mickey van der Ven, there's a problem with him because he is really injury prone. His minutes have got to be managed. He hasn't been rotated because of the whole injury squad crisis that's happened at Spurs. But he's a really good player. On his day, he can be one of the best in the Premier League. His recovery pace, his strength, he's just, he's so good in the Premier League for Spurs. But he's got to be looked after. And I don't think this system suits him because we rely on him, but it's also his strength is his weakness. So I'd keep him, but I'm worried about what could happen with him. Yves Bissouma. Now, this one's a quick one. Get rid. Not the player we thought we were signing. And we only picked him up for 25 million. I think we could get a good fee for him. I just don't know. He's not strong as an 8. He's not strong as a 6. We really need to think about those positions on our team. But I just think that I've not seen enough for him. Ange Postecoglou actually called him out in the most recent Tottenham game, which is not ideal. So he doesn't rate him. But a lot of Spurs fans are not rating him. I think he's been given a lot of chances. He's shown, the tiniest of potential, but he's getting on and he's not been good enough. So I'd say goodbye to him as well. Then we have James Maddison. Now, I'm really on the fence about James Maddison. I think on his day, again, a lot of these are on their day. He can be a really, really good player, but I don't think he's stepped up to the plate since making his move from Leicester City. We've seen it with Dejan Kulusevski being out in recent weeks. He's not been able to take that creative mantle on. But I think maybe in a different system, maybe in a different team, he could thrive. So I'm going to give Maddison the benefit of the doubt and put him in the keep category because I think there is a good player there. Then, these two have been, again, two of our best players. So I'm going to put them in together and talk about them as one. Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall. Phenomenal talents, these two. Absolutely incredible. I've done videos on both of them, so as I say, go and watch them after this. Archie Gray to start. Tottenham's Swiss Army knife. Now, I feel sorry for him this season because he's been played in so many different positions. He's only played in the 6 once from the start. 2 other times he played as a substitute. But for his age, I think he turned 19 the other week. Incredible. Just a future Tottenham captain, I think. I think he could be an unbelievable leader. Has played left back, right back, centre back. Just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And Lucas Bergvall, again, what a talent he is. Started the season off quite slow. He's showing rawness, but I think there's a lot of potential there. And I am a big fan of Lucas Bergvall. I think we're actually surprised. One, I think Archie Gray was going to always stay around, but we're surprised at how many minutes he's played. But he's had to again because of the injuries. And then with Lucas Bergvall, I actually thought he was going to go out on loan. But I think he is part of Tottenham's future midfield. I think it could be Archie Gray, him and Kulusevski. So really impressed with him. Then we have Brennan Johnson. Now, this is a tricky one as well. But I think Brennan Johnson is in that James Maddison category. I think we give him one more year. Was in really good goal-scoring form. really good goal scoring form. Back post Brennan, I think we should call him, because that's what he does. But to me, Brennan Johnson, and this does sound harsh, I think he's the wing version of Scott McTominay. He does goals. He does goals really well. But his all-round play is quite bad. He's not as quick as we thought he was going to be. His dribbling's poor. He fails to take on a man. And I really worry about Brennan Johnson, because for the price we paid, nearly 50 million, he's not shown enough. And I don't know if that's because of the system or, the manager he's playing under. But, yeah, Brennan Johnson, I think, has got one more year at this football club before we think about it. He's still about 23 years old, so I do have a lot of faith in him. And he has, come through a lot this season, a lot of adversity. So I still back him, but you're going to have to let me know. Do you think Brennan Johnson should stay at the club? I just think he could be on borrowed time going into next year. Then we have Papa Mathys. Now, this is a really annoying player because, again, lots of potential, was really good last season. We knew when he played that AC Milan game under Antonio Conte, there was a good player there. But again, this season been quite poor, not been managed well. Showed glimpses, scored a couple of goals, but yeah, a really tricky one. I don't know what his perfect position is. I think he is a bench option. Don't think he's a 6. But I'd put him in the keep category. I think I'd put him in that keep category. I've just realised that Brennan Johnson, Lucas Bergvall and Archie Gray all in the sell category. So we've moved that around. But yeah, Papa Mathys, we need more from him. I think that's without shadow of a doubt. Need to see more from you. Sticking with midfielders, Bentancur. Get rid. It's time to go. A lot of people have a go at Yves Bissouma, but Tottenham fans are waking up to the fact that Bentancur is not the player he was. Since the reoccurring injuries, he's just been a shadow of his former self. Error prone, injury prone, just not good enough. And I think the problem we have is he's one of the more competent players who can play the 6. So we've had no choice but to play him. But just been sloppy in possession, hasn't, really progressed the play, doesn't really defend well. So I think it's time to get rid of him. It's a shame. I think there's a good player there. He showed a lot of promise, but I think the injuries have hampered him. So that's a real big shame. Then we have Son. Now this is tricky because there's a lot of rumours linking him with a move to Barcelona, and he recently signed a 1-year extension, which was a clause in his contract that was triggered. I think he's being kept around for a couple of reasons. One of them being that we've obviously got Yang, who's out on loan at the moment. We'll talk about him momentarily. But he probably will be used as like, put an arm around him, support him with a final year. Levy knows as well that, Son is the face of Tottenham. He's the captain. He's, our talisman. He's a big, revenue driver for the football club. So, a lot of our pre-season tours have been out in Korea. So, I think that, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think there is another one due in the summer that he's going out on loan. We're going out on tour. So, I can see him being kept. But again, if an offer comes in from a Saudi or an MLS or something like that, I wouldn't be adverse to maybe getting rid of Son. He's been okay in patches, but he's not the player he used to be. So, we will keep Son for another year. Richarlison. So many just frustrating players. Richarlison, get rid. Again, Saudi, MLS, try and get around 20, 30 million. I think it'll be okay. I think Richarlison, he's got so much fight and he wants to do well for the team and the club. And when he has played, he has been all right. But he's so injury prone. He can't keep up with the pace of the Premier League. It's a shame it hasn't worked out. But again, 60 million on him, it's just not good enough. Sadly, it's not good enough. So we've got to get rid. Don't want to talk about this player, Timo Werner. Let his loan run out. I think it is. So that's it. Timo Werner, you're gone. Dominic Solanke, an easy keep. I think he's been really, really good. Shame about his injuries as well. I feel like I'm just repeating myself this video, but a lot of people have slagged off Dominic Solanke, and I think it's really, really harsh. Dominic Solanke has got so much energy, fight, grit, determination, an eye for goal, can drop deep. Basically what Harry Kane did, not as good, but I really back him to be a good player. When he hasn't been in the team, I think we've been a lot worse. When he's been back in it, I think we've looked a lot better. So yeah, easy keep. As well as Dejan Kulusevski, another easy keep. Our player of the season. He's tailed off. He got injured, but he looked absolutely shattered. So hopefully he can come back and, be really important for years to come. There might be potential suitors that come in for him, so we might have to, keep them at bay. But yeah, really like the player. And then we have, we're coming towards the end of some of our squad's players who are still at the club. So we have Wilson Odobert. Now, Wilson Odobert, keep. Again, hampered by injury, but has looked good in cameos. Was really good in the Europa League game against AZ Alkmaar. I really think he's been, quite good. Bit of fault for the Fulham goal, but still young, still raw, but he's a winger who wants to take on his man. So that's what I want to see. So I'd keep Wilson Odobert. Pretty self-explanatory. We paid a lot of money for him. Now, Bryan Gil, get rid. I think he hasn't had the best of seasons at Girona. Just pointless signing. Should have just kept Eric Lamela. I think Eric Lamela would have been a good player under Antonio Conte, but get rid of him. Now, this player, I want to do a video on this player, sort of explaining how good he has been for his club out on loan. And it's Luka Vuskovic. Hasn't actually played for Tottenham at all. We signed him at 16 2 years ago. He's now 18. He can now properly sign for the club. Luka Vuskovic just looks like an unbelievable player. He scored so many goals at centre-back, including a bicycle kick as well, which is unbelievable. But he's got to stay. He's got to stay because we have had such issues with centre-backs at this football club. I think he's got to stay. I really do. So I would keep Luka Vuskovic. Just unbelievable. And the fact that I've had to use him in his other club shirt because he's not been pictured in a Tottenham shirt for many years shows how it's been. Then we have Højbjerg. He's obviously on loan at Marseille. Get rid. If we get some money for him, that would be the perfect option in my opinion. Ashley Phillips is an interesting one, and we've got Alfie Dorrington as well. Now, I'm really mixed on this. Ashley Phillips has been quite good out on loan. I'm not too sure how good Alfie Dorrington's been. I'd probably keep Ashley Phillips, I think, because he played in the Championship a bit as well. It's more of a proven league. So I'd keep him, and then I'd potentially loan out Alfie Dorrington again. I think he's out on loan at Aberdeen. Maybe a Championship loan, a League One loan would do him the world of good. Sort of how Josh Keeley and some of our other players have done well up and down the divisions. But and Jamie Donnelly, who we'll get on to shortly. But yeah, I'd loan him out. Then we have Mikey Moore. Been really good. Still ever so young. I'd keep him. Don't think he should. He's played a lot of first team football this year. Been on and off the bench. Had his injury troubles as well. Like all of them have. But I'd keep him around the first team squad. I think he's such good talent. I don't think the loan would do him well. It's like Tottenham ended up loaning out players like Andros Townsend, if you remember, and it just got a bit messy, and then you just end up getting rid of him. So I think he's good enough to be kept in and around the first team, in my opinion. Then we have Callum Olasesi. Made his debut for Tottenham this year, but I think I'd loan him out. I think some of these players need loans, don't they? I think they're just, I don't want them to, stagnate in the academy. I don't want them to, be in squads and not really feature. So I'd loan him out. I think he's good enough. He's one of the best players in our academy as well. So I want to see the most from him. Then we have Jamie Donnelly. Been fantastic for Leyton Orient. Scored some absolute screamers and bangers, including against Manchester City in the FA Cup. And it was his goal. It wasn't an own goal by Ortega. So forget about that. I'd keep him. I think he's good to have in and around that first team again. Got a lot of potential. Very versatile. Good attacking output. Funnily enough, a lot of our loan players are better than some of the players at the club. So I think it makes sense to keep him. When we're bringing in Timo Werner, what's the point? We might as well, replace with the players we have. Then we have Alejo Veliz. Now, I'm really not sure about Veliz. I don't think he's got a future at the club. I'd probably get rid. I just don't think there's much point. I just don't see a loan really helping out. I just think it's a waste of time, so get rid of him. Then we have Matthias Tell. Now, I've already done a a YouTube short and a TikTok on Mathys Tel saying I don't think we should trigger it. And at the moment, based on what I've seen, get rid. I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's good enough. If we're going to pay between 50 and 60 million, I don't think that's worth it. When we've got players like a Donley, like a Mikey Moore, and, you know, etc., who can offer a lot more. I'm happy with that. I'm willing to, you know, cut ties with Mathys Tel. I don't think it's worked, and it's too much money. And maybe he'll thrive at another club, but wrong place, wrong time, sadly, for Mathys Tel. Then we have Yang. I mean, I'd keep him next year. He's been really good. I've got a friend who's a QPR fan. He said he's been really, really good. Obviously, I said about that thing with Son. I think it's good for them two to play in the squad together, and I think he's really good. He's young, he's dynamic. I'd keep Yang, and I'm probably going to do a video on Yang and Son. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. Then we have Matthew Craig. I'd loan him out again. I think that makes sense for some of these youngsters to be loaned out again. I'll probably loan out Will Lancashire as well. Again, I think, you know, good age around that 2021 mark. And I think he just needs more minutes. I don't think, you know, I think he's behind the pecking order with Dominic Solanke. So I'd say probably loan him out one more time. Same with George Abbott. I'd loan him out. I think that would make a lot of sense. And Ajayi, I'd loan him out. I think, you know, we want a lot of these good youngsters to get some game time, where I don't think they will. Whereas some of the players who we're keeping, I think, will, one, be needed, and two, have actually been in and around squads a little bit more. We then have Manor Solomon, been quite good for Leeds this year. I'd sell. I think Leeds will buy him, especially if they get to the Premier League, which they should. Fingers crossed, maybe. But if we can make profit on him, that makes a lot of sense. So I'd get rid of him. Just wasn't meant to be at Tottenham. Sadly, Kevin Danso keep. I think he's been good since signing for the football club. Happy with Kevin Danso so far. He's not going to be a starter, is he? He's just going to be another option on the bench. Dane Scarlett. Now, this is a tricky one because he's still quite young. And he got loaned out to the first half of the season to Oxford. I mean, I'd probably keep him. I think, you know, he got a good goal in the Europa League, didn't he? I'd keep him, but give him one more year, maybe a loan after that. Sergio Reguilon, get rid. Time to cut ties with him. Don't think he's good enough for this club, for this football team. Just been a bit part option. And then finally, last but not least, Alfie Devine, also been at the same club as Luka Vuskovic. I'd loan him out one more time. I think it makes sense to loan him out because I think this is his last loan. If this doesn't work out, then maybe it's time to move him on. One of our youngest goal scorers in Tottenham history, but I just think it's one of these ones like, what's going to happen? Are we going to have another Andros Townsend situation where it gets a bit messy? So, yeah, that's my tier list, as you can see on the screen. I think, you know, maybe you could argue Brennan Johnson, get rid. Depends on the fees, like, and Cristian Romero. But it goes to show we need a lot more squad depth, which is very, very vital. And if you're wondering, Ange Postecoglou, where would he fit in this tier list? I think we got to get rid of Ange Postecoglou because it's not good enough. We sit 14th in the Premier League, you've got to remember. It's utterly, utterly poor. And the Europa League, whatever happens in that, I think he should still go in the summer. It just hasn't worked out. It's a massive shame, but I'm sorry, Ange Postecoglou has got to go. I don't think he's getting out the best out of a lot of these players. I don't think he's improved a lot of these players. If anything, they've stagnated under him. And there's reports saying this week that, you know, Tottenham really want Andoni Iraola. Tottenham really want Thomas Frank. Tottenham really want Marco Silva. And that's the order I prioritise them in. I'd go Iraola first. If you can't get him, get Thomas Frank. If you can't get him, get Marco Silva. I think Thomas Frank would be a good option, actually. He'd probably shore up our defence a little bit more. Iraola's got a lot of potential. He's been fantastic at Bournemouth. But yeah, I think it's about time we sacked Ange Postecoglou. But again, let me know in the comments down below. And let me know in the comments down below what you make of this tier list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Just put yours down below. But yeah, that's all what we got time for today. Keep your eyes peeled for more content. Leave your likes, subscribe, hit the notification bell because 80% of you watching this right now are not subscribed. So you know what to do. Get down below and work your magic. But until next time, see you guys soon and a ciao.